The anime starts with our MC Souma Kazaya sitting with his grandfather, who was the only person in his family left, telling him the importance of a family. A few days later, his grandfather also passed away, making him lonely. However, when he was studying, he suddenly gets summoned as a hero in another world where humans, elves and many other creatures live in harmony. When he is taken to meet the king, he gets to know that many years ago demons had taken control of the northern part of the country he was summoned in, and a kingdom named Grand Chaos, which shares the longest border with the demon empire, has been fighting them. Souma gets confused and asks the king why they summoned him. Then he gets to know that he will be given away to the Grand Chaos Kingdom as an offering, as the Elfridan Kingdom cannot provide financial aid to Grand Chaos. Souma obviously gets angry, but he realizes that this is a sensitive situation, so he acts cleverly and asks the king if they can keep summoning people and hand them over to Grand Chaos whenever needed, which turns out to be impossible. Souma senses an opportunity to save himself and tells the king that they should rebuild their country's finances instead of going through all this. The king gives it a thought, and the next day Souma is declared the new king, and it is also announced that he will be married to the former King Elfridan's daughter Liscia. Hearing this, Liscia, who serves in the military unit of Duke Carmine, rushes back home and goes straight to her parents' room, where she sees Elfridan getting his ears cleaned. Liscia gets furious and asks them why they are so calm and why they fixed her marriage without asking her. Elfridan tells her that making Souma the king was his own will, and for the marriage part, it's up to her, and the two of them can figure it out on their own. Then she goes to meet Souma thinking that he is some weirdo, but the moment she enters his room, he is working and has big piles of documents all over his room. He directly asks Liscia to help him with work, which makes her kinda angry. She tells him that she is the daughter of the former king whose throne Souma has stolen. After this, Souma tells her the entire story and she apologizes for being rude. Souma also tells her to cancel the engagement as he plans on staying king only for a few years, and once things are back to normal he will leave the throne. He then tells her that he has already fixed some finances by selling useless treasures like jewelry that had no historic value, saving magic and historical artifacts securely. On the other hand, Excel Walter, the queen of a nearby kingdom, orders her subordinate to go and see Souma in person and find out more about him. Next day, Souma is told that heroes that are summoned from other worlds usually get some sort of magical power in this world, and he should test it out. Then he is taken to a room with a weird goblin statue which he has to touch in order to find out if he has any powers. When he touches it, he feels something which tells him that he is able to use magic, but he does not know what type of magic. Then after some time, Liscia goes to Sauma's room, and there she sees a few pens moving on their own. Souma tells her that this is his magical power to deal with multiple things at once. When Liscia asks him what paperwork they're doing, he tells her that he is finding unaccounted expenses to retrieve any money spent wrongly. He tells Liscia that the empire can never have enough capital and manpower, following which, he puts Liscia to work as well. Hours go by, everyone except Souma fall asleep in the office itself. Seeing Liscia asleep, Souma went and gave her a little pat on the head, which ended waking her up. After this, Souma asks Liscia to come along with him as he wants to show her something. They get on Liscia's horse, and Souma held her tightly as he had never been on a horse before. Souma tells her that in his world they had vehicles and stuff, after which Liscia asks him if he had any family or girlfriends in the past world, after which he tells her about his grandfather. After a while, when they have reached some cotton fields, Souma tells her to stop the horse. They get down, and Souma tells her that these fields are the reason for the country's food shortage, as the farmers started producing cotton ever since the demons took over the north, which was the hub of cotton production, putting an end to Elfridan Kingdom's food production. And the farmers did not benefit much from this, as when this happened, all other countries started producing cotton as well, and the supply was bigger than the demand. After this, Liscia gets sad that she never knew about this, being the princess, but Souma cheers her up. Then they get to planning as they eat, and Souma tells her that they will start buying food crops that their farmers grow, and they will sell it for less than the amount they bought it for, while making up for the losses by their exports. As they were discussing, Souma was introduced to Sir Ludwin Arx, captain of the Royal Guard. He joins them for breakfast, and Souma tells him that apart from the Prime Minister, Marx, no manpower is of any use at all, and that they were a big reason behind the fall of the kingdom. Then Souma decides to recruit new manpower from the kingdom, and he used the ruler Cao Cao's words, "If you possess an aptitude, we will make use of it." During his announcement, Souma told people that he is far superior than the former king, and if anyone thinks they are also superior than others in any field, they must present themselves before the king. and whoever proves their skills will be given a monetary reward. If anyone refers a talented man, they would also get 30% of his reward. This announcement spread joy amongst the people. Next morning, Lisha couldn't get her mind off Souma, and even her maid chuckled at her blushing. Soon, 5 people that were selected to be given gifts gather at a castle. The first person was Aisha Ujard, a dark elf from God-protected forest, who had shown great talent in fighting. For this, she said that she does not want a reward, but for her request to be heard. Souma asked her what the request was, and she told him that the forest is dying as old trees are getting thin and no young ones are growing, and as expected, Souma provides a solution for this, which was rather simple, but so bizarre for Aisha that she pledged her lifelong loyalty to the kingdom. Next up was Junadoma, who had incomparable beauty and the best singing voice in the kingdom. She was obviously asked to sing and received a lot of praise from everyone. Next up was Pancho Panicata from the Pot village. As soon as he stepped forward, he tripped and fell down. His talent was apparently eating, and he had traveled the entire world and tasted every edible thing on the planet. Hearing this, Souma got excited, but Pancho could not understand why. Souma gave him the name Ishizuka and made him the agriculture minister of the kingdom. Next up was Hakuya Kwanman, who was recommended by someone. His talent was his intellect, and it was said that he had read almost every book out there. Souma proposed him the role of a librarian in the castle library, but he declined and asked to underpin Sauma's hegemony with his knowledge. Souma sensed that he wants to be the military strategist, so after testing him a bit, he invited him to come to his chamber later and prove himself. But after actually spending a few hours with Hakuya, Souma appointed him as his right hand. The 5th talent to come up was Tomo Inui of the Mystic Wolves. Her talent was that she could talk to birds and beasts. She was kin to young and nervous, so Souma went up to her. As she could not speak loud, she whispered something in his ear that left him shocked. He went back to his throne and told Marx that he will have to think a bit about how he can use her talent. Then he invited Tomo to his office along with his ministers, who still did not know what she said. But soon Souma told everyone that she used her powers to speak to a demon. This shocked everyone as no one could understand the language of demons. She said the demon she talked to had the face of a dog. When she saw him in the forest, she yelled help, but hearing this, the demon asked her if she can understand his language and then told her to run away. This made Souma think of negotiating with the demons, while on the other hand Tomo grew anxious. He started figuring out ways to protect her and give her guards. One of the ways was to adopt her by marrying Lisha, but the way he chose was for the past king and queen to adopt her so she can stay in the castle without suspicion, and as the adoption would take a few days, Tomo was made in charge of the royal horse stables. Later, Souma was stitching up a doll in Lisha's room talking about Tomo when he got to know that Pancho is waiting for him in the hall with a sack full of food. Then, through their announcement methods, Souma first apologized to the people of the kingdom and then assured them that they are working on making things better. Then they hold a live event with the exotic food that Pancho got, where Tomo, Aisha and Lisha eat those rather weird food items that taste good. They started with octopus that Souma prepared for them, then they moved on to tree root snacks that Aisha enjoyed a lot, and then they moved on to boiled locust, which was prepared in miso and soy that reminded Souma of his hometown. Then, Pancho presented the next dish that left everyone shocked. But what was the dish? And did this event actually help anyone? If you want a part 2, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, like the video and comment down below if you would rather simp for Lisha or for Pancho, and we will see you guys in the next recap.